Welcome back to Solomon's Porch with your host Jason,
And Shawn.
and we are here with a riveting topic. I don't know why I used the word riveting again. I did it a few
Oh,
shows
dude,
ago.
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
You should be so excited. So we're going to be talking
Yeah.
about college or no college. Nothing specific, like outside of my personal life, really made me want to talk about it. I did have an interesting conversation this morning on Twitter about pastors being paid and XYZ. But we've already talked about that. But we might need to jump into the tithing aspect of that later on. So just a little bit of a brain, or what's it called? Foreshadowing, a teaser for that. But Easter egg, that's what I'm looking for. But college or no college. And part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it is one, I think we're in an age where everybody just assumes, like, hey, I need to go back to school, need to go to college, need to do XYZ so I can be able to get better jobs. And it's the way it's been for so long. And part of the question that a lot of people have is that still a thing? Like, do we still need college in order to fulfill our purpose or whatever that may be? And so I know, Shawn, you went to college specifically to for what you felt like your calling was at that point in time. But I think in general, the type of college you went to, the type of education you had, was probably more. There was a need for a collegiate education. Would you agree?
Well, I actually have gone to college for three different degrees. So,
Okay,
um,
so you can
yeah.
speak from three different angles.
Well, and two of which are, I guess, back in the day, they would have been a technical school kind of programs. So, the first time was for photography. And there's really nothing that replaces that, hands-on instruction, face to face. Here, let me show you how this is done, how you accomplish that, those sorts of things. Certainly, you can learn a lot of that stuff through videos these days. But when you run into some of those problems, you really kind of need somebody there. The my associate in arts is nothing because it was just supposed to be a college transfer. But third one was for ASL interpreting. And so again, another one of those things you really kind of have to be there face to face with somebody. You can do online, and some of it is for sure. It's just a lot more challenging, and I don't think that you quite get the success from your students once they go out in the field without having an in-person training and instruction. So, um, my daughter, she's this is her senior year. She's getting ready to graduate, and she's going to be going off to college. Since she knows a lot of ASL, she's actually going to go to the same college that I went to and get her degree there, her 2 year. Plus, it's required for her because she's homeschooled. Not every school accepts homeschoolers, um, which was disappointing for us.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, she wants to go to a pastry school in New York. And in order for her to do that, she's going to have to get an associate's first. But
Hmm.
anyway, so for us, I think that, college has been very beneficial. My wife's a teacher, she's gone through college as well. Um, and again, having that face to face, instruction has been very beneficial. Um, the point of, say, like with my daughter going to school for pastry, to be a pastry chef, she definitely does a lot of stuff really well right now as is, but she actually even has the desire to want to be more and wants to be in the tutelage of an expert. And I think that that's, for some folks that definitely applies, but there are lots of really successful pastry chefs out there that have never gone to school for it, but that have just learned coming up through, whatever bakery or environment that they've come up through. So I can see where school isn't necessary for everyone, but has its place for a lot of things.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, the question is, where I would ask them, what exactly are you going to college for?
Mm,
Because I think for some jobs, for some degrees, you really are there to get a piece of paper. In a lot of areas, they require you to have a degree. But on top of that degree, they also want experience. And I think if you think just the degree is going to do it for you, then you need to rethink. Um, you need to rethink. You got to have the the experience behind you. It's a requirement. And I would also say that the learning process that you get behind a degree, you can pretty much do that almost on your own. And so for me personally, I had this internal struggle battle on should I go to seminary? Should I go to Bible school or whatever you want to call it? There's different names for it. I think seminary is the more higher educational level of college for religious studies, Christian studies, and that's the biggest struggle I had. And I was asking myself, like, why? What is the purpose of me going to seminary? If I want to teach college, yes, it's a requirement. If I want to teach people, it's not a requirement because I can read and read and read. I can listen to teachers. There's free online resources. There's so many things I can do to learn in order to still be able to teach people. And so I think that's the thing that, I'm working my way through. And again, there's free programs out there you can go through and listen to. And the only difference is if I'm looking for a church job, some churches do require you to have some sort of formal education. Other churches don't. Other churches is more kind of on the job training. They may want you to go take a couple classes here and there, but for a lot of part, they just want to know that you know what you know, that is theologically accurate, and that you can fit whatever need that they have. But on top of other college things, whenever I was doing the Business with Bordeaux podcast, like almost everybody I talked to who was an entrepreneur and ran their own business, they didn't go to college. The majority of them didn't. The majority of them had on the job training. And whether it's construction, whether it's something in the music field, opening, there was a lady who opened a pole dancing studio for Christians, which that was a very interesting interview. So if you're interested, go look up Business with the Bordeaux, and it's one of those interviews. But I had a lot of different interviews. But the majority of people, I can't think of one that had like an actual business degree that owned their own business. And so again, I think it's also the mindset of, are you wanting to move up in another organization? Because I do think if you're trying to move up in an organization, that degree will help, but it only helps on top of experience. The college degree in itself won't necessarily open the well. It'll open some doors, but I think experience opens a lot more doors. And so I would just really encourage anybody out there right now who's thinking of going to college. Should they go to college? What's the purpose of it? If it's just to learn, then I would say read a book first. Because the majority of my college that I learned I went to business school. And, I tell people all the time, I feel like it was a wasted degree because I didn't learn that much in school. And in order to use a business degree, you have to have been in a corporation for a certain amount of time, move up the ladder, and that degree helps you with that aspect. In my current job, it does me absolutely no good at all. But that isn't to say that every college degree is wasted. Like Shawn said, like cameras, photography, sign language interpretation, I think you need one-on-one teachers and instructors that can be there with you hands on to do that. And so, something I want to do real quick is that I think with the amount of college that I've had and you've had, Shawn, maybe we can give a couple of pointers to maximize college for those who are planning on going. Do you have any good tips or suggestions you would have for people who are looking at going into college?
Oh, well, let me before I do that, let me say that I I would never want anybody to feel like that going to school for any theological religious studies is wasted. I will say this: if you're going into ministry and you've gone to Duke University for your degree, you're going to have a hard time paying that off.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the case for a lot of theological students. Um, I just shared a video with you recently. A young man who has recently graduated from a seminary or a theological school. He goes by the handle Heliocentric, and he's got a really interesting metal album. But he's got a couple of videos, and when you hear him speak about the topic of the Quran versus Christ and how the two are similar, um, you'll know that this is somebody coming from a well-educated background, and that gives him a sense um, of well, you're going to believe him. You know,
Credibility.
credibility. The person that stumbles over his words, such as myself, or that doesn't, sound like he knows what he's talking about, such as myself, you're not going to believe me when I tell you, oh yeah, so Jesus is to the Quran as whatever, or Jesus is to Christians as the Quran is to Muslims. You're going to go, what, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But you watch this guy's video about it, and you're like, oh wow, okay, I get it. And he has the degree to back it up. So just saying. Um, in terms of tips of going to school, this is what I told my daughter. Um, it- you know, Honestly, most young people, once they finish high school, probably should go get a job first before they go to school. Um, and the main reason for that is that you simply don't understand the importance of the education if that's what you're supposed to be doing. So, if you're out in the workplace and your intention is to start a business, you're probably going to learn more from being in a small business environment, working with other people, networking that way. If you're meant to be teaching theological studies, you're out in the workplace, you're going to learn real fast. I hate asking every single person through this drive-through if they want fries with that.
Yeah.
And you're going to be motivated to do well in school. The number of people that go off to school and just float through it and don't really get anything from it, it's usually because of them as opposed to the program that they're in. I said usually. So I'm not passing a judgment call on you, brother. Um, the education that you will get is also dependent upon the institution that you go to. So, for theological studies, if you are of a specific denomination and you want to stay within that denomination, you need to go to one of their schools
Yeah.
for that reason.
And for a lot of those
Um,
cases, you could almost go to school for free. Almost.
yeah, a lot of them have grants and other things that you can get to be able to pay for all of that. Um, so assessing whether or not what you feel led to do or what you're most interested in doing, whether or not it's going to behoove you to pay for an education and where that education is going to come from. If I'm looking at going back to school for photography, but I'm not real sure that photography is what I want to do, I'm probably going to check out a community college that has a program first and think
Right.
of it as a first step. Then, okay, I'm really into this. This is my jam. I'm going to go to Rochester Institute of Technology. Okay, now that requires a move, that requires extra funds for at least a couple of years. And then if I'm going to teach photography, well, now I've got another couple more years on top of that, and so on. So, um, take it in steps, view it as that way. Don't view it as going into college, especially for high schoolers. If you're just graduating, you're first going out to college, don't necessarily view it as, okay, this is the end all be all. I'm going to get it done and it's over with. View it as steps.
Yeah.
If you are trying to retool yourself as an adult, still view it as steps. Go in and start taking your entry level classes, and unless you just know that this is what you're want to do. I knew that when I went for my ASL interpreting program, I knew that that's what I was going for. I already had all of my other college credits. I didn't need anything else, so I just took those classes. Um, so
Yeah.
I guess that I guess that answers your question.
As far as I would say, as far as my advice, network while you're in school. Find those
Always.
find those that are in similar field of study. Make friends, and not just for I guess personal gain or whatever, but I mean just make friends in general. It's great to make friends. I'm friends with a very few people from my college years. Honestly, I wish I would have made more friends, but my life was so hectic and working third shift and just trying to stay awake in class, trying to carry on conversations and make friends didn't really work out too well. Definitely apply for every grant that you possibly can. I found a little chart of the cost of tuition, and this is it might be a little difficult to see, but this is kind of average for a public 2 year college in district is about $3,400, which is cheap. It's cheap. The problem is once you start going to a 4 year college, it gets a lot more expensive. Then it becomes 9 years. I mean 9,000 or 9,400. And then out of state tuition is 23,000, almost 24,000. And then for a private 4 year college, which is where I went, I didn't go for 4 years though. That's on average 32,500. So just on the financial aspect of things, you need to make sure you're trying to save as much money as possible. Take whatever college classes you can. One thing that I wish I would have done was paid more attention to my advisor in community college because I got my 2 year degree in business and only one of like 12 business classes that I took transferred. And
Mm.
that hurt because it's time that I wasted. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, no, intro to business, they should accept that. You know, some of my accounting classes, three or four of them, they have the same title, so why wouldn't they accept it? And just because something's titled the same doesn't mean the next school is going to accept it.
Right.
The more thorough thing to do would be to call the community college, which I recommend you go to first. Go to a community
Always.
college, get your transfer credits. Call the other college and say, hey, which of these potential classes at this community college will you accept credits for? Do that because it'll save you time and money.
And I think that you run into less of that issue if you do community college and go to a state school
Yeah.
as opposed to a private. Also, if you go to, say, like some of the online institutions, so like Phoenix, Strat, I don't remember all the others, but anyway, there's several of them. My wife ran into a problem with that one time where she had taken several classes. We'd paid quite a bit of money for, and then found out that none of her credits were going to transfer, and she basically had to start all over again.
Yeah.
So definitely check on that. And um, institutes. So like the pastry school that my daughter wants to go to give you guys sort of an idea when you're talking about how much do things cost. It's not even a full year that she'll be in school. It doesn't include her where she'll stay. So whether she gets an apartment or if she stays in some of the housing that they have associated with the school, obviously it doesn't include food or any supplies. Just the school itself is $33,000, and it's not even a year. So, and it
Man,
doesn't matter whether you're in state or out of state for that.
gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Try to get your books on Chegg is much cheaper than your average school bookstore. So just a little bit of advice there.
And also start saving.
Yeah,
Parents,
yeah,
parents. Okay, worst thing I ever did was not go ahead and start a college fund for my daughter. I told my brother, his daughter, my niece, just turned a year old. I said, do not hesitate. Go do it right now. Open up an account for her education. Even if you're just putting in a little bit of money each month, 20, 50, whatever, it's that much less that you have to pay for down the road, and less of a burden on her, and it gives her the flexibility to be able to go to school wherever she feels like she's led to go. So anyway,
yeah.
enough of my soapbox.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish I would have started saving earlier. We actually were talking about setting up an account for uh, my daughters this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to. So I'm glad you reminded me of that, sir. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm here for.
So yeah, man, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on college. Do you plan on going to college? If so, what do you plan on going for? Do you feel like you don't need college? And if that's the case, what are you wanting to do with your life? And I think there's a lot of areas of life where you just need hands-on experience. Whether you're doing carpentry, plumbing, stuff like that. Really, it's hands-on and will be more beneficial. But there are things that schooling would help with. And some of the main reasons why I was thinking about seminary was because one, the boring stuff I'll be forced to study if I'm in college. I won't have a choice. I'll have to. Some of the languages like Greek, Hebrew, I feel like it's best to have an instructor help you through languages. I feel like it's very important. You can't really read a whole lot of languages and things like that. That, and it's good to have people you can actually ask a question who is qualified to answer. Because we can look at questions all day long. Doesn't mean they're qualified to answer your question. And that's me speaking, being a wannabe teacher doing Baba with Bordeaux, where I answer questions. So you always want to make sure you're able to ask somebody who has the credentials to answer it and who have studied to show themselves approved. So yeah, man,
There you
that's
go.
so that's it for this topic. We are glad you tuned in and checked it out. I hope it was helpful for some of y'all. Hopefully it will be, and if not, I apologize. Some people may not need this topic at all. Maybe you've already graduated and have your doctorate degree, or master's, or bachelor's, or whatever you have. So we do want to thank our Patreon supporters of the show: Sam Blackwell, Jason Motley, and Aaron Simpkins at True Strength Apparel. We thank you guys so much for rocking with us, for supporting us. And just FYI, 100% transparent with everybody, we are really trying to save up a hefty amount of revenue because the computer we're using to record this show isn't as powerful as we need it to have top-notch quality recordings as far as video goes and things like that. And MacBook Pro is fairly expensive, so we're definitely trying to save up for that, on top of we're still wanting to support other ministries throughout the year and things like that. So if you're an artist and you want to support the show, sponsorship, things like that, it's very appreciated, and we'll try to push you best we can. If you're a listener of the show and you want to support on a monthly basis or even a one-time basis, we have a PayPal and a Patreon link that's attached in the show description, or the description on YouTube. As well, again, if you want to purchase some of the merch, if you want to purchase some merch, that's really bad, but it rhymed. Then you could go to our merch store and find some stuff there that hopefully you will be able to rock with. And yeah, man,
Now,
anything else?
yeah, just let me say about the merch. We have all the prices set in there. Um, okay, maybe I'll double check, make sure that we've got it all the same. But we make very little profit off of it. And when I say very little, there are some things that we felt like, you know what, the price of this is just too high. And we're maybe making nothing, maybe a cent or two or 30 some cents off of an item. Uh, Other things, t-shirt, $3. That's what we make off of it.
Yeah,
So, we're not killing anybody on that stuff. We also know that, you still got to pay for shipping as well. And, that kind of makes things suck a little bit. So please understand, we've got a price to set about as low as we can possibly get them. You know, showing, you know, walking around with our merch on just gets the word out there a lot easier. Plus, we think it looks pretty cool. Um, just saying, and and it does give us a little bit of money. So
Yeah, 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 man. So yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks with another show. And remember, on YouTube, I'm gonna be trying to spread these videos out periodically, so it's not all crammed into one. So make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe and the like button. You know, grab that subscribe button, as some say. Smash the subscribe button, as some say. I don't know how else to say it, but we do appreciate y'all for listening and checking this out. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and always remember, Jesus loves you way more than we do.
peace.